The latest trade development for the Toronto Raptors is very, very interesting, as reports come out revealing the Raptors are among the favorites to land Domantas Sabonis via trade. Now, after the loss to the Hornets in the past few games without RJ Barrett, some holes in the Toronto Raptors offense have been getting exposed, and there's a connection with the Sacramento Kings, which makes a Domantas Sabonis trade all the more likely. So we're going to break down what this report is saying, the likelihood, and whether or not it makes sense to acquire Domas out there from the Kings, because of course he is one of the best offensive centers in the entire NBA, offensive big man, whether he plays power forward or center, and could really help out the squad, but would regress this team in certain areas. So we'll break this down because, this team has been phenomenal this season. The Raptors have been overachieving, breaking expectations, breaking through every seal that a lot of people thought this team would have, but they have a very interesting stretch of games coming up. You were on a 9-game win streak, you had a pretty light schedule, tough loss to the Charlotte Hornets, which is making everybody overreact, but now you face the New York Knicks, the Blazers, and the Lakers. 3 teams that are pretty solid out there in the Western Conference. The Hornets, once again, who have played you tough over the course of this entire year, and the Celtics and the Bucks, who are 2 teams that you can't ever take lightly. So the Raptors are going to have a bunch of tests coming up, and we'll really see if these holes are exposed. But in the meantime, the odds makers, the people that make all the predictions out there in the NBA, are projecting the Toronto Raptors to make a trade for Domantas Sabonis, or at least be one of the top teams to do it. Because you can see this list, Domantas Sabonis' team after the 26th NBA trade deadline, if it's not the Sacramento Kings, the Knicks are favored, the Bulls are there, the Blazers are there, and then the Toronto Raptors are ranked 4th out here on this list. And this is a very interesting development because, of course, Domantas Sabonis has been linked in a lot of different reports as of late. Essentially, Jake Fisher came out and revealed that the Sacramento Kings are reportedly willing to trade anyone on their roster except for Keegan Murray and Nick Clifford. That means players like Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, Domantas Sabonis, Keon Ellis, Malik Monk, and even Russell Westbrook could be available. So that's a development we heard on that front. And then on top of it, you hear these breakdowns that Sabonis has been disappointed with Sacramento's downward trajectory since reaching the playoffs and his usage at times under coach Doug Christie. League sources have told HoopSite. So basically what's happened this season, the Kings, Doug Christie was brought in to be the interim head coach last year. Then he got given the full-time role. And this season, they've really adjusted their offense, which is taking Domas out of the picture there a little bit. And, they're not running. He played a lot of point center out there for that group, and things have gotten a little bit messy out there in those areas. And that's led to his stats to regress a little bit over the course of this season. 70, still phenomenal stats out there for this guy. 17.2 points per game, 12.3 rebounds, 4 assists per night. Still a solid true shooting, but one area where his game has really fallen off is the 3-point shot. It's affected his true shooting percentage, and free throws are a little bit down. So it's not been an up year for Sabonis, especially in his new role for this team. But the thing that people have to understand about Domas is this guy is a good 3-point shooter. He's a lot better 3-point shooter than this stat essentially indicates. We look at his stats last year for this team, and you can see it out there last season for the Sacramento Kings. He was shooting 42% from the 3-point line on 2.2 attempts per game. So not a crazy high volume shooter by any stretch of the imagination, but a guy that was definitely shooting a lot better than he has been over the course of this year. So he's a stretch big man. He can play in the post. He facilitates really, really well. Offensively, would integrate seamlessly in this Toronto Raptors team. However, there are a little bit of, reasons to pause regarding Sabonis. Basically, first thing is his contract. Now, it lines up perfectly with a lot of the core guys out there on this team, the extension he gave to Brandon Ingram. So you'd essentially be open up committing to a 3-year window with this group. But, he's making $42 million per year, so it's an expensive contract. And some of the advanced stats, especially this season, don't love him. Now, the Kings are a bad team. Their net rating is bad with whoever's out there on the court, but their net rating is a lot better with Sabonis off than it is with him on. So defensively is really where it takes a massive hit, and you don't get that much of an improvement out there. It's like defensively, it's a bad drop-off when Sabonis is on the court, even though the offense improves slightly. So those are all things that are coming into play with Domantas Sabonis, and this is where the Raptors being listed as one of the favorites to actually pick him up gets very, very interesting, because Bobby Webster just made a big commitment out there to Jakob Poeltl, who is the guy that is starting at center for this team is a much better defender than Sabonis. And this season himself, despite a cool start to the year, is in a steady season. Not as good of numbers as he was last year, but 11 points per game, 8 rebounds, really efficient out there around the basket. 72% true shooting, 73% out there for the field. He's solid out there blocking shots. His free throw percentage is really bad, but Jakob has been awesome this season. There's no arguments against that. But bringing in Sabonis, you're punting out there on the defensive a little bit, but you're getting more improvements out there on the offensive end. And while the advanced stats don't love him out there on the Kings, him coming into the Toronto Raptors is a guy that, the dramatic improvement over Jakob, because Poeltl can kind of pass and facilitate in that mid-post area. Sabonis is better in those areas, but is the spacing of the floor that Sabonis would provide. Because on this group where you have, RJ Barrett, you have Scottie Barnes, you have Brandon Ingram, try to get in the paint, Ingram, those little 8 to 10 foot middies, right? Sabonis to be able to be out there and space the floor a little bit more. And one really interesting finding that I had the research of this vid is the Raptors' best lineups this season. Their 4 best lineups, and again, not the greatest of sample sizes because the season's only just started, but Sandro Mamukelashvili, when he's been out there with any sort of group, 4 of the 5 best lineups the Toronto Raptors have in regards to net rating have had Sandro Mamukelashvili out there on the basketball court. And, of course, Jakob is a better defender. He has more size than, Mamu. But the thing that he definitely has, out there on him is the three-point shooting. So bringing in a floor spacing big man that can also do all the passing, facilitating stuff and, help your team out there rebounding could be very, very valuable for this Toronto Raptors team. And that's an avenue where the Raptors have to take things seriously because as of late, the Raptors have been struggling out there on the offensive end of the floor. And specifically, one thing that, when the Raptors were winning a ton of games, they're still winning a ton of games, don't get me wrong, but, the assists per game have been high. But over the last stretch of games, things have not been as perfect as we'd want out there for this group because basically you could take a look at it. Sportsnet revealed this. Over the Raptors' last 3 games, their offensive rating has plummeted to last in the league, along with their true shooting mark falling under the 52% mark. So they shot 44% from the field and 31% behind the arc against the Hornets, all while the Raptors' half-court efficiency was ranked 42nd percentile among the 16 teams that played Saturday night. So the Raptors, again, without RJ Barrett in the lineup, they're getting exposed there a little bit. So maybe say, he returns from injury and stuff. But you want more offensive creators. You want more guys that can create out there on the offensive end. So Sabonis would certainly be a guy that improves the offense. Again, you take a look at the on-off stats, the Kings. It is the Kings, so they're different defensive style. But he's a worse defender than than a Jakob. So it's an interesting spot. So I want to know from you guys, do you think the Toronto Raptors should trade for Domantas Sabonis? Type Y for yes and for no. I'll respond to every single comment. And one development that I also want to really take a look at is one of the more reasons why it could be likely. Because, again, I haven't brought any trade packages and stuff, but you probably have to combine Jakob along with RJ Barrett, who personally, I have been adamant, I have been outspoken out here on these videos. I am not interested in trading RJ Barrett. I started a movement to not make this happen. And RJ Barrett this season, we're seeing the value that he provides, averaging 19.4 points per game, 5 rebounds, 3.8 assists. And, you take a look at what he's really been able to do out there over the course of this year, for this team, for this group, for this squad, right? He's efficient out there from the field, 60% true shooting, which is, the top third of the league, while getting 20 points per game, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. We're seeing the playmaking fall off a little bit for the Toronto Raptors since they, he's been out of the lineup, since he's been off this team. So the Raptors need to really figure some stuff out front, but, you're going to have to combine one of these dudes. And Immanuel Quickley is the other player that you'll be named out here in this situation because, he's averaging 60 points per game, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, and he's the guy that fits out there on paper for this group. In terms of roster balance, he can facilitate at the point guard spot, even though some people call him a combo guard, more of a 2 than a 1. But, the efficiency just hasn't been as great for IQ this season. He takes a lot of ill-advised three-point shots at times, but, his numbers have jumped up to 37% from the three-point line from where they were at the start of the year. IQ has been good. He's been solid, but, you're bringing in a Sabonis. You're making one of those bets on a guy that, has been an all-star in the past to take that jump. So I want to know if you guys are interested in making one of those trades. But, one of the reasons that it makes it more likely, again, I bring it up, is Scott Perry is the GM of the Sacramento Kings here now at this point. And if you're not familiar with him, he was formerly the general manager, whatever his title was with the New York Knicks, when they ended up bringing in both RJ Barrett and Immanuel Quickley. So there's a lot of talk about the Kings wanting to trade off of Zach LaVine. I don't think it's likely he'll come to the Toronto Raptors, but if they do move off of Zach LaVine, they'll probably want more depth out there in the backcourt. So then they trade Sabonis and bring in one of those guys. I would not be shocked if Scott Perry is interested in making one of those moves happen. So let me know what you guys think about all that out there in the comment section down below. But the Raptors have one of the biggest games of the season tonight, if not the biggest game. The Cavs one where they solidified themselves as second in the East was very big. But tonight, you're facing off against a team that is tied for third out there in the Eastern Conference. And they're right on your tail in the New York Knicks. The Raptors have been, the offense has looked a little bit shaky as of late, so it's going to be very important you come in here and get the job done against the New York Knicks, who are a great basketball team this season. Take a look at their stats over the course of this year. They're very effective on offense. They get rebounds. They're top 10 in assists, and, they play solid defense. They are just an all-around good team out there for the NBA. They've had a lighter schedule as of late as well, but they've lost the Magic, the Heat, and the Magic again. So their best win over the past 10 games has been against the Miami Heat once. So basically, the Knicks haven't been crushing all the top upper echelon teams in the league right now. So the Raptors have to come in and solidify themselves as the second seed by beating the New York Knicks in this game tonight. So I'm very, very excited to see what's going down, what's happening for this group. And one thing I forgot to mention as well, the Sabonis front. Sabonis has been injured for the past couple of weeks and will be injured for the next couple of weeks. As this came out mid-November from Shams Charania that Domantas Sabonis suffered a partially torn meniscus and his knee will be reevaluated in 3 to 4 weeks. So again, one of these trades doesn't have a chance of happening till mid-January or anything along those lines, but we will see how things play out. So that's a mention of Sabonis. They're all the latest developments and stuff. But let me know what you guys think about all this in the comment section down below. Hoping the Raptors get a big win tonight. I appreciate every single one of you. Anyways, I'm signing out. Cheers.